All right, so we're going to go through and look at some of the questions from our quiz, proportions and Pythagorean theorem questions. All right, a punch bowl has syrup, water, and apple juice in it, mixed at a ratio of 3 to 4 to 3. Okay, so for every 3 ounces of syrup that's in there, there's 4 ounces of water and 3 more ounces of apple juice. Okay? And the question is, if there is 790 ounces of the punch, how much is there of the apple juice? So the first way I'm going to solve it is by setting up a little table. I've got some syrup, I've got some water, and some apple juice. All right, it's a pretty common way I can solve ratio questions. So for every 3 ounces of syrup, there's 4 ounces of water and 3 ounces of that. What this means is that they're going to grow proportionally. So if I add another 3 ounces of syrup, if there were 6 ounces, now there would be 8 ounces of water and 6 ounces of the apple juice. If I made it a 9 for the syrup, the water would become 12 and the apple juice would become 9. Right? Then there's this fourth column here, okay? The total column. The question wants there to be 790 ounces of the punch. So that's a total question. And then I just add these up. 3 plus 4 plus 3 is 10. 6 plus 8 plus 6 is 20. And you guessed it, the next one's going to add up to 30. So the total column just keeps growing by tens every time. And eventually, it's going to grow to be 790. That's the idea. And we want to know what the apple juice is on this row. So what I want to do is figure out, instead of actually making the table all the way down, I'm just going to figure out what I have to multiply the 10 by in order to get 790. Okay. The way you do that is you just do 790 divided by 10, and that's equal to 79. Okay. So if you're timesing this first row by 79, every piece gets multiplied by 79. So your apple juice answer is just going to be 3 times 79, which turns out to be 237. Okay. That's it. Now, the other way that you could go about solving this isn't as intuitive. Like, this is the approach I use most of the time, is making a little table. But you can write a proportion to solve it. The two things that they are comparing, all right, they are comparing apple juice and the total. All right, so I'm going to write a proportion that says AJ over total both times. All right, according to the original statement, the 3 to 4 to 3, the apple juice was 3 and the total was 10. And that's going to equal, we don't know how much for the apple juice, and 790 for the total. Okay. And then you can cross multiply this to solve it. We would do 10 times x, which will give us 10x. And then we would do 3 times 790. Let me see what that is. 3 times 790 is 2,370. All right, and then you just divide by 10, and that's going to give you your x. Divide by 10. And that's going to equal this 237. Number 2. All right, so you are mowing the lawn. In 4 hours, you can do 10 lots at a mobile home park. Let me write that down. 4 hours, you can do 10 lots. The question is, how many hours will it take you to mow 45 lots? So one way that you could do this is to take this original statement and start out by multiplying it by 4. Okay? If you had 16 hours, you could do 40 lots. And that's almost the desired amount. You want to know 45 lots. Then what you could do is, again, take that original statement, and instead of scaling it up, you could scale it down. You could cut it in half. All right. If 4 hours is equal to 10 lots, well, 2 hours would be equal to 5 lots. And then you just take those two parts and add them together. 5 and 40 make 45. 2 hours and 16 hours makes 18 hours. And that's your answer. Sometimes it gets a little tricky to do it this way, but it is a really intuitive approach, and it makes it to where you remember how to do these problems conceptually, like for real. This would be the way that you could set it up using a proportion. 4 hours and 10 lots is equal to X hours and 45 lots. So if you take a look at the top and bottom of these fractions, we're comparing hours and lots. All right? And that rate at which you're mowing is supposed to be the same in both situations. That's why we're able to set them equal to each other. And then you could cross multiply to solve it. When you do that, you'll get 10x equals 180. That's 4 times 45. And then divide by 10, and again, you're going to get that 18 hours. All right, number 3 here. What is the distance between these 2 points? All right, so the trick for solving this, if we kind of connect the 2 dots there, the way that we're going to solve this is by making a right triangle that kind of connects the 2 dots. So I'm going to count how many spaces it is over until I'm right under the blue dot, right there. And I'll count how many spaces it is up and down between the 2 dots. And if you count those spaces, you're going to see that it's 11 up and down and 11 spaces left and right. Okay, and that's just from doing 14 minus 3 on both of those. So now that you have the 2 legs of your right triangle, you can figure out this hypotenuse, which represents the distance between the points. Okay. It would be 11 squared plus 11 squared is equal to your distance squared. 11 squared is 121. Add those up, you'll get 242. All right, and then you want to solve for x, so you're going to take the square root of both sides. All right, we will do square root, and the square root of 242, square root of 242 is 15.55, which is going to be option D down here. All right. A lot of people chose 11 as the answer, but that is not the distance between those 2 points. That's just the vertical and horizontal distance between them. Since we were wanting that right there, that's always going to be longer than either of the 2 legs. All right, question 4. Ratio of boys to girls is 5 to 7. If there's 216 students total, how many are girls? Okay, so again, I'm going to set this one up using a table. So we got boys, we got girls, and we got the total. So for every 5 boys that there are at the school, there are 7 girls. So if there were 10 boys, there would be 14 girls. Okay. The left-hand column grows by 5s, the middle column grows by 7s, and then the total is 12. 5 plus 7 And then this column would just keep growing by 12s. Oh, 12 times 2 would be 24. But eventually, this total column is going to get to 216, and that's what we're interested in. So what do we have to multiply 12 by in order to get 216? Just divide those two numbers, and that'll tell you what it is. 216 divided by 12 is 18. So 12 times 18 gets us to our 216. And so I'm just going to do that for the 7 as well, and that's going to tell me how many girls there are. Okay, 7 times 18 is 126, so that is my answer. Okay. If you wanted to check it, you could multiply the 5 by 18 as well, and then kind of see what this one plus that one equals, and it should equal 216. The other way, if you wanted to write a proportion to solve it, it would be the things that they're comparing are girls and the total, right? So girls and the total, it would be 7 to 12 is equal to X number of girls to 216 total. Okay. And then you could cross multiply to solve it.